Biohacking needs a soul, and I'll tell you why. See, without it, it's empty. I mean, heck, without soul, everything is kind of empty. I've spent years watching the what I call wellness industrial complex explode. Gadgets, peptides, fitness trackers, neurotech, nootropics, whole nine yards. And while a lot of it is incredible, and I've used plenty of it myself, also a lot of noise. And let's be honest, there's also some pure charlatanry. And at some point, I think we really have to ask, what are we optimizing for? Because if we follow that question all the way down, we eventually hit the oldest question of all. What are we really? I mean, what's it even mean to be human? And what are we optimizing for? And that's where I ended up, staring straight at the notion of what does it mean to be human? And what about the soul? I mean, I don't mean the soul as metaphor or mysticism, but as something real that might actually be measurable. Imagine a quantified soul. And look, if Dave Asprey ever happens to hear about this idea, I would generally love to know what he'd think about not just a quantified self, but a quantified soul. Because, see, after all, Dave's the one who always talks about the argument for incredulity. How just because your belief system says something isn't possible, it doesn't mean it's not. All it means is that nobody's figured it out yet. Hi, I'm James. I've been quietly building this project for quite some time, kind of in stealth mode. And I've got a book coming out next year called The Quantified Soul, A Revolution in Science and Spirit. Now, I want you to trust me that this isn't a whim. It's been simmering for years. Part study, discovery, and honestly, part of a bit right place, right time luck to learn some very esoteric things from some very interesting people. Because like a lot of you, I have in the back of my head, always kind of wondered, what if the soul isn't beyond science? What if we've just been missing the framework to see it? Okay, let's start with biohacking. Biohacking started really, and I love this, as rebellion and wonder. It said that biology isn't fate. We can take control of our own system. And that idea alone gave us agency. It turned the body into a laboratory and life into an experiment. And honestly, it worked. It does work really well. We've learned to sleep better, think faster, live longer. And I think we've really built a culture of personal responsibility for our biology. It's been empowering, but I think something happened along the way. The more we've measured, the more we lost track of why. I mean, when everything can be optimized, the question to me becomes, optimized for what? Longevity? Sure. I mean, that's great. I mean, I want to live a long and healthy, happy life. But is that all there is? See, we have dashboards for everything except purpose. And I don't think that's a failure of science. It's a symptom of a civilization that's just forgot that there might actually be a purpose that can track every metric except the reason it exists. In the early days of biohacking, I think we saw the body as this new frontier to figure out. And fair enough, it was. But I'd argue that the body is just the hardware. There's also the software running inside of it. Let's call it the mind. You know, we all, in tech circles, we rarely ask the real question, like, what does it actually mean to be human? What is a mind? We love what can be seen, measured, and optimized, and the observable feels safer than the mysterious. And so we often come up with these empirical definitions of the mind. For example, I love Dave Asprey's Meat OS model, right? It's practical. You look at the things we can see, the mitochondria, like all these elements of the system, and it makes sense. But is that the truth? Is that what a mind is? And now even we're building artificial minds. We still don't understand what a real mind is. See, if the mind is just chemistry, the game ends at chemistry. But if it's something more, if it's something structured, intentional, and self-directing, then the body just simply isn't the master plan. It's just an interface. Now, I admit the word soul makes a lot of people squirm. It sounds unscientific, unquantifiable. But if you really look back through history, the Greek rationalists, especially the Pythagoreans, the real Illuminati, they saw it differently. To them, mind was mathematics come alive, and it could be figured out. It could be logically deduced from first principles. So it makes it not mystical, but genuinely figure-outable. And measurable, at least in principle. See, these guys believed that reason, not faith, could reveal what the soul actually is. And they deduced that it is a structured field of mathematical thought. Imagine the most incomprehensibly complex waveform as a mind expressing itself through matter. Each of us then being a living pattern of intelligence taking form. And now here's where I think it gets exciting for biohackers. Because if we can figure out what the soul is, we may be able to figure out, and I say yes, we can, how it leaves a reflection in matter. That we can see how thought organizes, how emotion integrates, and even how coherence shows up in brain rhythms. And see, now when I say coherence, to be clear, I mean something specific. I mean coherence is when the parts of a system work together, individuated but cooperative, each doing its own job in harmony with the rest. In the brain, that's regions communicating fluidly, not competing or drowning each other out. And in fact, in the field of neurotherapy, where I practice, we tend to see symptoms when different parts of the brain aren't communicating effectively with each other. Now, we see the same thing in society. So in society, coherence is when people are thinking clearly, disagreeing constructively, still aligned towards a shared purpose. And that points to something really remarkable, freedom within unity. And that's the essence of coherence itself, the ability to be an individuated, free individual operating within the context of a collective. I suggest in my work that these patterns, the patterns of an immaterial mathematical mind, are actually measurable through their reflection in the brain. Think of Plato's allegory of the cave, right? You have the prisoners in the cave, fire behind them, some sort of puppet masters, maybe bad choice of words, right? Some actions happening, casting shadows on the wall. They can't see the actions that are actually happening. All they can see are the shadows, and they think that's reality. What I'm suggesting is that we may be able to understand how those shadows are projected, and in doing so, sort of see through them to the real nature of mind, or the soul. Really a network, right, of minds or souls interacting to create our universe. I know, big claim. Just bear with me here. Because I think, a lot of biohacking claims sounded really bold when they started. And so I think biohackers of all people should get this impulse to try to figure things out and try to crack this code. We're hackers. That's what we do. My first job in high school was literally as a hacker. And in biohacking, I don't think we ever waited for permission to test what seemed impossible, to try to measure it and improve it. So imagine this. What if the next thing to quantify isn't in the body, but it's the soul itself, the mind? And that's the core of this idea about a quantified soul. The idea that mind isn't produced by matter, but reflected through it. That reality itself is mathematical, and the structure of mind and consciousness, the soul, might be something we can actually map. And once you see things this way, so many things change, right? Science and spirituality stop being opposites. They become two mirrors, basically facing the same light. And suddenly, biohacking isn't just about biology anymore. Well, in fact, what is it then if it's not biohacking? Well, I still think it kind of fits in this category. It can become about tuning the instrument through which meaning itself is played. This really comes to the topic of mental health. And I've always loved how in biohacking, we have so many things that are improving our mental health, right? There's so many stories about people suffering with attention deficits or depression or like all these things. And that's a really big impulse in biohacking. But we often think of mental health as a society as a private issue, something we fix when it breaks. But consider, if the soul is the organizing intelligence of the mind is related to the brain clearly, then mental health is soul health. And that's not just a luxury. I think that's infrastructure. It's one of the most important things to our civilization. A system that ignores the health of the minds of its citizens is a system that benefits from confusion. Like, people can't think clearly. It rewards distraction, thrives on polarization, and quietly ensures most people never think clearly enough to question it. And through this lens, the connection becomes obvious. Thinking clearly isn't a side effect of freedom. It's actually the precondition for it. Without the ability to think rationally and coherently within ourselves and between us, there's no genuine choice, right? We're driven by reaction and programming. That's why I think the next frontier of biohacking isn't another supplement or gadget. It's mental. It's coherence. It's about perfecting our thinking, really becoming more free. Because really if we had a society of clear minds, that's what we need. That's the safeguard of liberty. We need to be aiming for free, clear thinking minds that can synchronize and work cooperatively together. So yeah, I think biohacking needs a soul, because optimization without purpose is just motion without meaning. The next evolution of this movement, I don't think it's just about health span and performance. I think it's going to be about alignment between body and mind, self and system, and especially humanity and the technology we're creating. If we remember that, technology could finally become purposeful, a true amplifier of human potential, instead of something that really degrades us. Like, imagine, scary situation, neurotech assumes the brain is just a piece of matter, something to be optimized and managed. Imagine that we end up with neurotech that learns all our dopamine buttons and learns how to push them in just the right ways to optimize that. Where are we going to end up? I mean, that's just like the pinnacle, the end game of exploitative capitalism. Doesn't sound like a great future to me. So if that doesn't sound like a great future to you, if this generally resonated, please subscribe. Follow along on Substack. It's free, and it'll just help me keep building kind of an audience, right, for the Quantified Soul as I move towards publishing in April of next year. And if you know somebody who'd just be into this, who'd appreciate it, because the more of us who are thinking clearly, the closer we get to coherence and really, I think, a society that works and plays well together.